15 degrees. Below zero with wind chill. Kai Brennan pulled his thin jacket tighter as another gust cut through him like ice. 29 years old and sitting on the frozen steps of Lincoln Community Center on Willowbrook Avenue. Just another face Chicago's winter was trying to erase. For months ago, he'd been an architect with a future. Then the firm collapsed, taking his apartment lease, his savings, and his fiancée Rachel with it. Now his cardboard sign read "Lost everything, please help" in fading marker. That's when he noticed her. A young woman emerged from the shadows between buildings. Maybe 20, with platinum blonde hair pulled into a loose bun. She wore a cream-colored sweater dress that had seen better days, and her feet. God, her feet were bare against the icy pavement. She moved carefully across the street, clutching something gray and worn. As she got closer, Kai could see it was a blanket. Threadbare but clean. Her face was pale from the cold, but her blue eyes held a warmth that seemed impossible in this frozen wasteland. "You look cold, mister," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "You can use my blanket." Kai stared at her in disbelief. This girl, this homeless girl, was offering him her only protection against the bitter Chicago night. I can't take that," Kai managed, his teeth chattering. "You need it more than I do." She knelt beside him on the icy steps, her bare knees touching the frozen concrete. Up close, he could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her lips had turned slightly blue from the cold. But her smile was genuine. "My name's Skylar," she said softly. "Skylar Monroe. And you look like you've been out here longer than me." "For months," Kai admitted. "You?" 2 weeks. She wrapped the blanket around his shoulders despite his protests. "Lost my job at the diner on 5th Street. Then my apartment. Been sleeping in doorways mostly." The blanket smelled like lavender soap, but somehow she'd managed to keep it clean despite living on the streets. Kai felt tears forming in his eyes. When was the last time someone had shown him such kindness? "What's your name?" Skylar asked, settling beside him under the blanket's edge. Kai Brennan." He pulled the blanket wider to include her. "I used to design buildings. Before everything fell apart." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sharing warmth as snow continued to fall around them. The streetlights cast long shadows across Willowbrook Avenue, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed midnight. "There's something I need to tell you," Skylar said suddenly, her voice trembling. "About why I'm really here." Kai turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Skylar reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. A picture of a man in a hard hat standing next to a half-built structure. Kai's breath caught in his throat. "That's the Morrison Elementary School," he whispered. "I designed that building 3 years ago." "My little brother Tyler went to that school," Skylar said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He was in the earthquake drill you insisted they practice every month. When the real earthquake hit last spring, those drills saved his life. Saved all their lives." Kai stared at the photograph, memories flooding back. He'd fought the school board for weeks about those safety protocols, pushed for reinforced structures, demanded regular drills. It had nearly cost him the contract. "Tyler's in foster care now," Skylar continued. "Safe and warm. But I've been looking for you. The architect who saved my brother. I heard from other homeless folks that you were out here. You've been homeless for 2 weeks. Looking for me." Skylar nodded. "I wanted to thank you. And to give you this." She pulled out a crumpled envelope from her other pocket. "It's from the Morrison family. The principal's family. They've been trying to find you too." With shaking hands, Kai opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a letter explaining that the Morrison family had started a fund for the architect who'd saved their school. Other families had contributed. The letter ended with an offer. A job with the city's Earthquake Safety Commission. "I don't understand," Kai whispered. "How did you know I'd be here?" "Mrs. Patterson at the community center," Skylar explained. "She remembered you from when you came asking about work. She's been keeping this letter for weeks, hoping you'd come back." Kai looked at the check, then at Skylar's bare feet, her threadbare dress, her selfless offer of the only blanket she owned. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. "Skylar," he said, standing up and helping her to her feet. "We're going to Murphy's Diner across the street. It's open all night." "I don't have any money." "I do now." He held up the check. "And tomorrow, we're finding you a place to stay. A real place. And shoes. Definitely shoes." Skylar's eyes widened. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Kai wrapped the blanket around both of them as they walked toward the warm glow of the diner. "Someone once told me that kindness creates kindness. Tonight, you reminded me what that means." As they crossed Willowbrook Avenue together, Kai realized that sometimes salvation comes in the most unexpected forms. A homeless girl with bare feet and a generous heart, carrying a blanket and a message that would change everything. The snow continued to fall, but neither of them felt cold anymore. Inside Murphy's Diner, over hot coffee and warm pie, Kai called Mrs. Patterson to accept the job offer. Skylar sat across from him, her feet finally warming up in a pair of thick socks the night waitress had given her. "What happens now?" Skylar asked. Kai smiled, looking at this remarkable young woman who'd given him everything when she had nothing. "Now we help each other build something better." 3 months later, Kai stood in his new office at City Hall, looking out at the Chicago skyline he'd once helped shape. The city's Earthquake Safety Commission had welcomed him back with open arms, and he was already working on retrofitting 3 schools across the city. Skylar worked down the hall as a community outreach coordinator, helping homeless individuals find housing and services. Her lived experience on the streets made her invaluable to the program. The best part? Tyler visited them every weekend. His foster family, the Hendersons, lived just 30 minutes away, and they'd welcomed Skylar into their extended family with open hearts. "Kai," Skylar said, appearing in his doorway with a manila folder. "The Morrison elementary families want to expand the safety program. They're asking if we'd consider traveling to other cities, helping schools implement earthquake protocols." Kai looked at the proposal, then at Skylar. 6 months ago, they'd been 2 strangers sharing a blanket on frozen steps. Now they were partners in something bigger than either of them had ever imagined. "What do you think?" he asked. Skylar smiled, the same warm smile she'd given him that cold night on Willowbrook Avenue. "I think kindness creates kindness. And maybe it's time to share that with the world." Over the next year, they visited dozens of schools across the country. In each place, they met children like Tyler. Kids who deserved to grow up safe, who deserved to have adults who cared enough to plan for their protection. And everywhere they went, they carried the lesson of that winter night. That sometimes the smallest acts of compassion can change everything. In Phoenix, a shy 3rd grader named Bobby learned earthquake drills that would save his class 2 years later. In Denver, a teacher named Susan started a kindness initiative inspired by their story. In Portland, a principal named James retrofitted his entire school after hearing how Kai's safety protocols had protected Tyler's class. The ripple effects continued to spread, touching communities they'd never even visited, reaching children they'd never meet. On a cold December evening, exactly 1 year after that first meeting, Kai and Skylar returned to Willowbrook Avenue. The Lincoln Community Center had installed a small plaque on the steps where they'd first shared that blanket. "In memory of the night kindness changed everything," Skylar read aloud. "May all who pass here remember that we are never too broken to help each other heal." Tyler ran up to them, now 11 and thriving in his permanent home with the Hendersons. "Did you see it? They put your story on the plaque." "Not our story," Kai corrected gently. "Everyone's story. Every person who chooses kindness over fear, who helps instead of ignoring, who shares what little they have." As they walked away from those steps together, Kai, Skylar, and Tyler, the snow began to fall again. But this time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like possibilities, like second chances, like the promise that tomorrow could always be warmer than today. The blanket that had started it all was carefully preserved in Skylar's apartment, a reminder of the night when a homeless girl's generosity saved 2 lives and began a movement that would touch thousands more. Sometimes salvation comes in the smallest packages. A threadbare blanket, a whispered offer of comfort, a moment of human connection in the darkest hour. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the world.